To further research this topic, I interviewed people who spoke a language that was native to where they were from to understand the issue of a universal language from a multicultural perspective. The first person that I interviewed was a high school student named Serena Haas who speaks German. So what does your language mean to you?
My language is for me, it means communication with my friends and my family, and without that I couldn't communicate with them, and it also represents culture.
And how has your language ever caused problems with communication?
Well, sometimes there are misunderstandings or stuff like that, but the biggest thing that comes in my head with that question is my grandpa, he had a stroke, and he had to learn to talk completely again, so that was really hard, so we couldn't understand him at the beginning, but now he can speak again. Yeah, it's
And would you feel okay with the universal language, or would you miss speaking in German?
I would miss my language. I wouldn't want a universal language because it's part of the culture, but it's also because I love languages, so I love to study different languages.
Thank you. The next person that I interviewed was my mom, Neeta Pathak, who is fluent in 2 Indian languages, Hindi and Gujarati. What does your language mean to you?
To me, my language means one of the most powerful forms of communication. It is a way of expressing yourself.
And how has your language ever caused a problem in communication?
Yes, the only problem caused by language could be if 2 people don't speak or know or understand the same language, obviously. And yes, the other problem could be the accent.
And would you feel okay with the universal language?
No, I would say no, since language has its own identity.
The third person who was interviewed was my IB Spanish teacher, Mrs. Locker. What does your language mean to you?
My language, apart from being my form of expression, it just tells the story of who you are and where have you been. It tells you if you study, if you travel, if you know your story, the story of your culture.
And how has your language ever caused problems in communication?
Constantly, because I include the verbal and non-verbal form of communication. So yes, I live in Southeast Asia, and part of my form of communication, of my non-verbal, it's moving my hands, and I was told that it was way too aggressive for them. So it's and my tones, depending on the culture that I'm addressing, also it changes. Sometimes, if I'm new to that culture, the person that I'm talking to, they think that it's too aggressive or too blunt, and sometimes they think that it's too sweet, too mild.
And would you feel okay with just one universal language, or would you miss your other languages?
I miss the diversity. I don't think that one size fits all. I feel that a language tells the story of a person, their background, their culture, their history. I mean, where are they coming from? So definitely not one size fits all.
Thank you.
Welcome.
The last person I interviewed was a high school student named Rose Aranyas, who is fluent in the native Filipino language of Tagalog. So, what does your language mean to you?
Well, my language is my way of communicating to my people, and it's also my culture, so it's very important.
And how has your language ever caused a problem in communication?
Well, it has happened many times because every time I talk to my friends, I would randomly blurt out a word that's in Filipino, and then they would question me, what was that? And I'd be like, oh, I'm sorry, I accidentally said my language, so yeah.
And would you feel okay with just one universal language, or would you miss Tagalog?
Honestly, I would be okay with a universal language, but at the same time, I'd miss my old language because it's my culture and it's my way of communicating to my family.
Just as all the people that were interviewed said that language is an important part of their lives, I believe that it would not only be impossible to have a universal language, but it would also be invaluable because of the loss of so many cultures and the fact that it would affect people with disabilities even more than it would for people who can speak. Taking away languages would take away knowledge gained from those cultures and the findings and influences from other cultures. It would mask over history and not allow people to be different in the way that they communicate.